What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Benconnected. Absolutely stoked that you're here again. Appreciate the likes, the follows, the comments, everything else in between. Really, we've had a lot of different great guests from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different things, whether they're pro athletes, whether they're college players, whether they're entrepreneurs, kind of everything. And so I hope you guys are enjoying all the guests today. Like always, we got a great guest in the house. And so before we introduce him, I'm going to give a little background. His name is Jeffrey Mann. You might have seen him on social media. He has a great platform of what he's doing with business, relationships, faith, family. I mean, he is kind of a pillar of a lot of things in the content and influencer world that is not really being shown, right, as far as like family and actual relationships. And so today we're going to dive in with him and kind of how he got there and what it takes to have those types of relationships. And so today, welcome to the show, Jeffrey Mann.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the introduction.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. So let's just dive into this. So, that kind of give us a little background of kind of where you're from and
Yeah,
what you know.
I have an interesting life. I'm 32, but I feel like I'm 60 or 70 sometimes.
Okay.
I was born in Maryland, adopted to Idaho. I've moved to Africa 3 different times, so I've lived in Africa for 7 years of my life.
Okay.
I've been in Utah since 2014. Graduated college at Utah Valley University. Utah's home now, American Fork, and I've been blessed to be able to travel the world. One of the things me and my dad set as a goal was to go and see all the wonders of the world. So we've been to Machu Picchu and we went to Taj Mahal right before the pandemic. And so it's allowed me to meet so many different and diverse people.
Yeah.
I work in a career which I love. I graduated in public relations, minored in marketing. I've always had a knack for connecting and getting to know people.
Yeah.
And so I had a professor once, he's like, you should think about PR and just forming relationships and then turning those into business. And so kind of just rolled with it and
Yeah.
fell in love with it. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. I mean, super like, and I think like it's kind of obviously now, a lot more people are doing kind of not, it's kind of hard to say like everyone's doing it because like everyone has different thoughts of what PR is and everyone has different ideas of what an influencer is and what is an influencer, what is a celebrity, right? Is it followers, is it money, like what actually is that? Like I don't, you know what I mean? It's so crazy and so skewed, right? Like and there's you might be famous in this type of category but maybe not in this, and so it's kind of interesting that a lot of people are being kind of pulled into this world of networking and connecting, and I feel like there's been a lot more kind of hype around it, which has been really cool because I think, like, I don't know, I went and actually spoke at a school this week and I asked the kids, I said, all right, who gets in trouble for talking, And everyone's raising their hand. I was like, it's okay, me too. And now I get paid to do it. And so it's like, there is a value to learn how to talk. And so it's like, how did you use, like, obviously your knack that you're like, okay, I like connecting to people, but how did you, like, use that to start your career per se?
I think it was just, it's interesting that you said that. I went and I spoke at, and I'm adopted, and so I went and spoke at an adopted foundation in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And I met a lawyer there who had adopted a kid, and him and his wife said, hey, there's a adoption camp in Denver that you should come and speak to the parents at.
Yeah.
So they covered my flights. I flew out there and I spoke, first time I ever spoke. Went and spoke there, and I fell in love with the camp, and I ended up becoming a coordinator at the camp and spent 7 years there helping every summer. And it just, the more I talked to parents, the more I talked to people. I was just connecting with so many different people, and I'm like, this is fun. I love this. But I also love being able to travel somewhere different. And so it kind of all just lined up and started sinking in for me. And then I started saying, well, how can I expand this? What can I do with this? And so a few years ago, an influencer reached out and they were looking for someone in PR, and I jumped in. And little did I know, the next week I'd be on a private jet flying here and getting to meet this person, and it was a whole new world. And in the course of that, I started meeting people, and they're like, "Wait, we want you to do for us what you're doing for him." And so, working for a single person, I couldn't do it. And then I was able to meet a company called 1DS out of California. And actually, I was meeting with them to do some work for a client of mine.
Yeah.
And in the conversation, something just clicked.
Yeah.
And we ended up partnering together. They offered me, I joined their company. And so it allowed me to now, hey, I could help everybody.
Right.
and bring the same things I was doing, but I had a team behind me that could help. And if you need social media, talk to these people. If you need marketing, talk to these people. Ads, here's the people that could do it. And so for me, it's been a journey. It's been a lot. It's fun. One thing, and you probably know this: PR, networking, relationships. It never rests. It never sleeps.
Right.
And so you're constantly going. I mean, I had a buddy yell at me because my screen time was 13 hours a day. And I had to explain to him, like, dog, I work from my phone. I relax on my phone. Like everything is there.
Yes.
And, it's not that I'm like doom scrolling
Right.
all day
There's a
long.
difference.
Yeah. I'm texting, I'm emailing, I'm constantly going. Heck, if you look at my finger, um, I tore a tendon in my hand,
Yeah.
and one of the things the doctor told me it was from over texting
Really?
and typing. But it's the world that I live in, and I crave the work. Like for me to sit and do nothing,
Yeah.
I feel lazy, like I've wasted something.
Yes.
I'd rather be moving or going or doing something.
Dude, I know it's crazy to explain to people, right? Like it's like, dude, I love that. Like I love like it's like and so I played basketball. So I grew up playing basketball, had offers to play in college and stuff, and kind of did that route, and then ended up kind of in the car industry and different things, and then it's obviously led me to networking and connecting to a lot of different people, um, and it's like it almost gives me that adrenaline of a game day, where it's like, bro, like I love taking calls. Like I love just being like, okay, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do that, And it's so interesting that like everyone wants to do it until they actually see what you do. You know what I mean? It's so because like you ask like an influ like so many people hate on influencers, so many people hate on, oh you're just a PR guy or like what value is that?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you probably can't buy what I do. You know what I mean? Like really, like when you're that talented of talking to people at that high of a level, it's so interesting because the way you can connect is so powerful, right? Like there's different connection types, right? There's the hey, it's super transactional. You're gonna do this for me, and I'm gonna do this for you, and then that's it. And that's good. There are times where that is there, but then there's those deeper connections where it's like, oh wow, like I like how you operate. I like how I operate. Together, let's operate, and then let's freaking blow this up, right? So, what have you seen in kind of your realm of PR? Obviously, you're doing a lot of things right now. Like you got your own podcast. You're doing your own branding and marketing for a lot of different people and your own self. What kind of events are you doing, or kind of like what are you doing right now, kind of in that realm?
I right now it's interesting because I've been so focused on doing PR for clients
Yeah.
and getting their name, their brand, their mission out to the world. But I've started to shift, and I'm like, wait a second, I also need to do PR for my company
Yes.
because these are the people that are behind the success of the clients. And so being able to shift that focus to also like, hey, my client's winning, but how can our company win from also getting our name out there? Here's the people that work in the different fields. And so that's kind of where I've been honing in and trying to create different strategies. For me, my podcast, it started off, and you've probably seen this, is I was having great conversations with people,
Yes.
and I'm like, why am I not sharing this and putting it on social media?
Yeah.
Like other people need to hear and deserve to hear these things. But then I started looking at it, I was like, if someone I really want to connect with, I can sit down and have a 45-minute discussion with them, and I have their full attention.
Yes.
And so it kind of pivoted to, hey, not only is this a podcast, it's also in a way a business meeting because we're getting to know each other. We're getting to see strengths and stuff. And almost after every podcast, it's like, wait, how can we help each other? How can we do something together? And so that's the fun side of it is I'm really strategic with who do I do podcasts with? Who do I invite onto my podcast? But also being able to do it in a way where I honor their time.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a little crazy. Last week I was in New Orleans and I was visiting. We went to tour one of the slave plantations,
Oh wow.
and I'm sitting in a room that was the slave quarters, and I'm sitting there and I'm on the phone with Business Insider out of New York
Yeah.
talking about a client, and it was kind of a full circle moment. I'm like, I don't think any slave ever imagined that they could be on a smartphone talking to one of the biggest news
Right.
networks in the United States.
Yeah.
But
In that
it's
room.
yeah, in that same room. And so for me that kind of was like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. I'm not there yet. I'm far from, your most successful person, but I'm on my way, and I look at how far we've come. And you can always let what's happening with society and politics and everything you see get you down, but it's like, no, we're making progress. And we actually are in the greatest country in the world. And so it's just really taking a second to look and see, hey, I've made it this far. Let me celebrate this win, but also let me keep going and celebrate the other wins.
No, absolutely, and I think I mean you hit it so perfectly. Like I mean, multiple things you dropped, great nuggets there. It's like after every podcast, I swear, like every person that's came, like, and every person's came kind of for different reasons, right? Like they're like, hey, I'm gonna share this part of my brand, or I'm gonna do this, and after every single podcast, it's always like, hey, I think we want to work together, or hey, and it's not like, oh my gosh, like Ben's the greatest ever, so I'm gonna work. It's more of like, hey, like I think we can do something else together, or we can do something, right? And then, I'm sure that experience was just so powerful, right? It was, and I just think like I mean, so when I was teaching or talking to the kids this week, I'm just looking and it's so cute. All the kids are raising their hand. I want to be a doctor. I want to do, I want to be like a marine. I want to do, all these things. And it's like, man, I remember having those same dreams, and then you kind of get older, and sometimes those dreams start getting kind of darker
Yeah.
because like kind of people start dimming them a little bit, right? Like people kind of say like, oh, you shouldn't go after that, or maybe you're not gonna make that, but maybe you should do this, and they kind of start it's so interesting how life works, right? When you're a little kid, you're taught to like just dream, be a dreamer, right? Like dream, dream, dream. And then as you kind of progress in age, you're kind of told like, well, like if I went off of what teachers told me, man, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was unsuccessful because I talked too much. I was a distraction. So like I can't, I wouldn't succeed in big meetings with business people because, I just am too crazy and too loud, right? And it's like, man, that talent has actually been what's provided me opportunities that not a lot of other people could probably have. And grant vice versa. I probably could not go to med school and succeed. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm psycho enough to think like I would like if I was about it, I would commit to it for sure. But it's like it's so interesting that like once you kind of have that belief, and I think that's what it stems from is like when you start believing in yourself, because right, like you have kind of your friends that are like, you should do it, you should do it. But then when you kind of start getting that snowball of like, hey, like I think I could actually do this, and then you do it, right? You see one go in, and then you're like, I kind of like this. Okay, then you see another go in, and then you're like, okay, right, this is what I'm gonna do. And I think what's interesting about influence, there's so many different ways to kind of look at it, right? There's like the capturing the market of it, right? Or there's like the actual influence, right? Where you actually influence people to do stuff for good or bad,
Yeah.
right? And I think that was something I always was taught. I was playing high school basketball once, and we had a game. It was a rivalry game, and I was saying some things that I probably should not have said, And after the game, my mom came up to me, and we did our thing. We gave, she gave me a hug and told me she loved me and proud of me, or whatever, right? And I was frustrated, and she looked at me and said, "Hey, like, regardless of how you played, like, we won't even talk about it, cause like, we just don't talk about it. But like, you're an example, whether you want to be one or not.
Yeah.
And all the kids in your youth, like my ward, were at that game and heard everything I said,
Yeah.
and then I was gonna go bless the sacrament on Sunday, and so it was like it was just kind of an experience that I reflected back to that I was like, man, like you really are a light to people whether you want to be one or not,
Yeah,
and
and
so
you don't know who's watching
right.
or who's listening or who clicks on a video. I I
Or
flew
why
out
they're clicking on, right? Like what they're going through,
exactly.
and they're like, wow, like, and it could go either way, right? Like someone clicks into a video and they're like, wow, that was the inspiration I needed to get through this, or it could have been, dang, I'm gonna listen to this and change my whole
Yeah.
opinion on this subject.
Yeah, and I find it hard at times because you get tired of the grind of social media and content and constantly having to film and for me it's always refreshing. Like I was at the airport a few weeks ago and I'm in security line. A lady stops me. She's like, "Are you Jeff?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she's like, "I follow you on social media." And I'm like, "Thanks for the follow." But her husband's like, "Yeah, it's like meeting a celebrity." And every eye in the area started looking at me. I'm like, "Oh, I just want to fly." But it's fun. I've been stopped at the gym, at Costco, at the grocery store, and people who just recognize a video or they saw something, or I get a DM, and for me, it's like, okay, I'm doing something.
Yes.
And
Influencing people.
you spend a ton of time with athletes, and one of the greatest things I ever heard Ray Lewis say is what you can have a million followers, but if you don't have a message, there's no point.
Right. 100%.
And I think that's a huge thing that people need to realize in the game of being a so and so influencer
Yeah.
is, what is your message?
Yeah.
And if it influences 5 people, that's okay. You don't need to have 20,000, 30,000, millions of followers.
Right.
As long as you can impact one life, then you have a win.
Absolutely, and I think hey, I'm just it was actually here's a funny story. Like when we started DMing, I was actually like, man, I feel like this is like fake. I was like, why would he want to like hop on with me, And it was actually kind of interesting because I was like, I feel like this isn't real. So all right, I'll hit him back and see kind of where it goes. And then I was like, oh wow, like, and then like, because I saw your stuff before, like I've seen a lot of your stuff and kind of what you talk about, and I was like, okay, like I would love to do it, and so that's why I was really like, yeah, let's go, like, when can you? Let's roll. But it's like, it's so interesting of like what people's thoughts are, and I deal with it with a lot of companies right now. Is like they're like, oh well, you don't have 40,000 followers, so like I'm good, I'll pass on it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'll do more for this brand if I'm about the brand, I will do more than someone that has 40,000 followers.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, like, I won't out anybody, but, like, I can't tell you how many influencers I've seen do an unboxing, or, right, they do the whole thing, and then they're at UPS returning stuff the next week. Like, I've seen it. Like, I've seen it
Oh, we
at
got to
UPS.
drop a name. Uh
I
oh,
can't. No, I can't drop
we
names.
got to
I
throw
can't.
some names
I
out
won't throw
here.
some names, but
Let's get
I've seen
juicy.
some. I've seen some influencers, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's returning that. Cool. After I just saw. And it's like, and that's kind of where my partnerships are a little different. Like, I partner with people that I was already, doing stuff with. You know what I mean? Like, I was already buying hats from Lodge 33. I was already going to dunk cookies in Saratoga Springs.
Yeah.
Like, I was already doing those things, and obviously, I get like there's levels and there's things to it, but like for me, I'm all about genuine connection. You know what I mean? Like I don't, and it's kind of hard for other people to see that because they just see Ben with pro athletes, Ben at this game, or he's doing this. Oh, it's just this like kind of free realm of like no care in the world where it's like no, like I've like really fostered those relationships. And for me, like it's been really cool to look back on because like you know I didn't have an in. Like it's not like my parents were someone super like high up or I didn't have like it's not like my life was bad. I'm just saying like I didn't have an in of like an instant connection of like instant like okay, here's gonna be your job, here's what you're gonna do. Like I've kind of created this relationships. Like I can share this story. I was at the Utah football game. We do a lot with them, and so I was with Freddie Whittingham, and I was on the field, and Colin Sexton got traded to the Jazz, and so he's sitting there with his family, and I walked up to him, I was like, "Yo, I'm your car guy," and I just like went up to him, said it, and he's like, "Okay, cool, like here's my number," and I was like, "Oh crap, like now I got to do something about it." Now I'm like, "Oh crap, like okay, I'm his car guy," but it was interesting because like I then was like, A, it gave me confidence, but B, it was like, oh wow, like they just generally like want to connect to normal, like they just want to be treated like normal. And I think that's kind of been the most interesting thing about pro athletes because everyone asks me like, man, what's like the craziest thing? And I'm like, we don't even do anything crazy when we hang out. Like honestly, like we just literally hang out and talk about everything besides what you guys think we talk about. And I'm sure you have similar experiences where it's like you're sitting next to people that you would think would be doing types of things and they're actually not. And I think that's where like you kind of start picking out who really is who they are, right? Like there's real influencers, there's real celebrities, there's real wealthy people, and then there's like the show
Yeah.
of it, right? There's a
Well,
lot of showmen.
and you see, it's crazy. I've worked with billionaires. I worked with millionaires, and there is such a change between those two. The billionaires, I have felt, are more like me than the millionaires. They'll sit. They don't have a driver. They drive their own car. They'll sit down to have a meal with you and everything. And what you start to realize is these are normal people like you and me. They're super successful in what they chose to do, but the hard thing is when you see someone like that, and then you see the fake influencers you see on social media who put themselves on a pedestal.
Yes.
Then it's like, is that really
Isn't
your lifestyle?
isn't so interesting?
Is
Like,
that really true? And it's hard for me because I get to see a lot of the behind the scenes.
yes.
And so it's hard for me. It's like, do I keep my mouth shut? Do I, do I say something? Do I just leave it? Now, if I have friends who, will reach out and be like, hey, what do you think about this person? I'll give them my honest feedback and
Yes.
say,
Yes.
here's the positive, here's the
You have to.
negatives. You make your own decision. You're a grown man, you're a grown woman. You decide what you want to do. But it's so interesting, and the shift of social media has become, and what I love about what you do, I love about my platform is people have gone from, we don't want to see the fancy cars and houses and private jets. We want to know that this is a person I can relate to who's gone through the same struggles as I have, that, hey, I can look in the mirror and that could be me.
Right.
It's not something that it's a dream or a pipe dream, whatever it may be. They want to see someone that reminds them of themselves. And when they do that, that's the person that they follow.
In the meantime, we just want to thank our partners and sponsors. Dunked Cookies out in Saratoga Springs, phenomenal cookie shop, literally the best people ever. Go tap in, go support a local company, awesome people. Mosquito Meat Market in Provo and Lehigh. They have butcher shops and they also have the restaurant in Provo. Super great food, super good vibe, super easy to get in and get out. Shout out JC and F Co. Appreciate my boy Jared hooking me up with the chains, getting me right, making sure I'm looking solid. If anyone needs jewelry pieces, he can customize anything. He's super good, easy to work with. Tap in there. Shout out my guys over at Lodge 33. Literally the most comfortable hat I've ever worn, and that's all I wear. Whether I'm on the podcast, whether I'm doing anything, you're going to always see me in a Lodge 33 hat. So make sure you're tapped in there. Lone Wolf Prince, shout out my guy Spence. He runs that. Also, if you need to look good on Sundays or you're going to meetings, whatever you need, and you need a suit or nice slacks, nice blazer, whatever you need, Odeon down in Orem, Draper, Riverton, you will not miss, I promise. They got it all taken care of. My guy Taylor and Wyatt and the boys down there will take care of you. So make sure you're tapped in with them. Rock and Crust Pizza. Shout out my guy over there. Super good pizza. They got gluten-free options. They got all different flavors, so anyone and everybody can eat there. So shout out them. Make sure you go use, Benconnected. Let them know that I sent you and they'll take care of you. No, 100%, bro. And I've seen that just even with Content Create, right? Like, where like even doing like promotions on Instagram for different companies where it's like, hey, this dude's super addy, and then it's like lifestyle and it's more like real, and you're like, okay, that's more like intimate. Like I can see myself living like that, right? Like I see a Nike commercial and it's like some dude at the gym, and I'm like, okay, like those shoes are sick. I could see myself wearing those to the gym. But like they're like, hey, here's 50% off of this socks or this shirt. I'm like, all right, it's cool. But like, I kind of want to see myself in their situation, and not that that's, they're everyone. And that's what's so interesting about social media or content creators or anything. Like, everyone has different types of feelings towards social media. Everyone has different types of content ideas. And, my For You page and your For You page might be different. I think we kind of would have a similar one to some degree. But sometimes like it's way different. And that's okay. And I think that's what people don't understand about social media and branding and marketing is that it's okay to be different. And it's okay that there's differences, and it's okay that they can actually all fit on the bus together. It's just, let's just put the right seats. Let's put you in the right seat, and that's okay. Like, hey, there is a time for this type of content. There's a time for this type of content. There's a time for this type of whatever, right? And it's like, but everyone can fit on the bus. It's a big bus. We can all fit, And I think that's kind of the difference between the reals and the fakes, right? The fakes are kind of like, here's how I do it. Pay me a lot of money, and I'll guide you to do it. And it's kind of like you're paying for their lifestyle almost, where the real ones are just kind of like, hey, this is how you do it. Let me guide you, And I can't tell you, like, I was meeting with this guy, and super successful business dude, worth a lot of money. We're just sitting in his house and just so chill, giving me advice. And I was like, dude, like, I appreciate you taking the hour to meet with me, And he's like, why would I not? Like, I want you to succeed. And I think that's the difference right now is there's so many people that don't want others to succeed. Right? Like, there's so many people that are like, oh, they're just an influencer. I'm like, well, little do you know that influencer probably makes way more than your job. Not that it's about that, but it's like there's just so much hate in the world, I think, about other people's lives. And it's so interesting because I think that's kind of like the curse of social media is that everyone just sees so much, and it's this kind of like instant gratification or not. And I think there's just a lot of hate towards people of things that they're not doing. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy.
No, I agree with you. And I think what people need to realize on the other side of that spectrum is that if me and you were to bake brownies, we follow a recipe, bake the brownies, they turn out perfectly. See what I'm saying? Now, what people do is they try to start doing it from scratch or adding their own ingredients. And then when they get the final product, it's like, this doesn't taste right. This doesn't look right. And I'm like, guys, everyone in the world has probably done what you're trying to achieve some way. They have the recipe. Reach out, follow, research, find their recipe and follow it to a T, and you'll get your end product. But so many times we look for shortcuts or easy ways and stuff, and we don't want to follow the recipe, and then we get mad when it's not the end product. And I'm like, guys, it's right in front of you. It's not that hard. Follow it. If you want to go into this career, who's in that career? Start watching videos on them. DM them, reach out, and be like, hey, I want you to mentor me. And now there may be skin in the game. You may have to pay to do it. But get a hold of that recipe and follow it, and you'll get that end result. And I think that's where we get away from things on social media as we try to reinvent the wheel or we try and do it ourselves. And I'm like, why? It's already there. That's the beautiful thing about it. Just look for it, follow it, and see what happens.
Absolutely. And I think like as you're doing that, like, and obviously like, I talk to like different coaches and different athletes and stuff, and it's so interesting because right, like there's so like for example for basketball, Houston's coach, older guy, and everyone's like, how did like he's never going to connect to the young guys, like right these new older coaches, the old way is so far out, right?
Yeah.
Houston's very competitive
Oh
still.
yeah.
They're very
I love
good.
that coach.
Like that dude Calvin has changed the culture of Houston,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting because it's like he's like I am who I am, and here's what we're gonna do. And you actually make some adjustments, and there's some things, there's some audibles there, but it's like yeah, like connect to those people and figure out how to work. But I think that's the deeper thing, right? Is like how are you connecting to them?
Yeah.
Like if I just DM you just for clout, and I'm like, oh dude, like I'm gonna connect with you just to connect with you and say I'm connecting to you and take some pictures of it, that's probably not gonna get you anywhere.
Yeah.
But when it's like authentic and it's like, hey, like I'm gonna be vulnerable here. Like I would love to work with you. I'd love to collab with you. And yeah, like you said, it might be, hey, there's some money in it, or there's, you know, whatever. But the value of what you can actually get from somebody and just learning from them and listening to them is powerful,
Yeah.
good or bad. Like you can read somebody pretty quickly if you just kind of listen to them and talk and how they operate. And I think that's kind of what I've seen, kind of like what you were talking about, with the differences between billionaires and millionaires. It's just like true wealthy people, like it's so interesting. You would think because I how I grew up, I was like, oh, they're gonna be this type of way.
Yeah.
Most of them actually aren't. Like it's actually kind of interesting. Some of the dudes that I'm like have the most money are like chilling in tracksuits, chilling in,
Mm-hmm.
nothing
Yeah.
crazy. And don't get me wrong, they like to have nice things. They have nice
Yeah.
things, but it's interesting how people kind of like show different things within their life. You know what I mean? And so, how do you feel like with what you're doing with PR and your own brand and your own platform? How do you feel like? How are you feeling like you're changing kind of the game? You know what I mean?
I I think for me, it is adapting with the times,
Yeah.
not forcing people to come meet me, but meeting people to where they are. I'm I am a big proponent of my faith and what I believe in, and I love the Bible. And one of the teachings, for anyone that's religious that listens to this, is the Apostle Paul. If you read in the Bible, it says, "To the Jews I became a Jew, to the weak I became weak." When he preached in cities, he referenced poets from those cities. And when I take that and I put it into my business, it's like, how can I speak the language of my clients, of the people I'm trying to reach? How do I reach their hearts so well that they trust me? And that's through building a relationship. And when that trust is there, doors get open. They start referring you to their friends, to their neighbors, to their clients. And it makes it so much easier because you don't have to do the work. You don't have to, here's my resume, here's everything I've done. That credibility is already there through an introduction.
Right. And I mean, that's so much more powerful. Like when someone, like I think like that's kind of one of the most like one of the best compliments you can get is when you're in like a group chat where it's like, hey, this is my guy, this is what he does, like he'll take care of you. Like I think that's like that's worth more than any like nice comment on
Oh, yeah.
Instagram. Like getting those DMs of like or like those text messages and chats that it's like, hey man, like I know you're gonna take care of my guy, so here's Ben's info, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. And then it kind of makes you like appreciate it, but then it like you go right back to work where you're like, okay, like yes, this is what I do and this is how I do it. How have you felt like? Because right, there's a lot of people that would love to do what you do. Right, there's a lot of people that would love to meet these types of people, and whatever intentions they may have to meet those people are kind of all different, and
Yeah.
everyone has different reasons of wanting to meet famous people or celebrities, right? Like you used to, like for me at least growing up, people would be like, okay, if you could meet 5 people, who would it be,
Yeah.
right? Or things like that. How do you feel like, how do you gauge that where it's not just for clout or part of the club, but like it is cool, like it is really cool that you get to meet cool
Yeah,
people, like that is cool.
it goes back to what we talked to before we started filming. Is like when you meet that celebrity, that athlete, whatever, don't quickly jump in. Hey, let's get a selfie so you can post it. Like, have a conversation. Hey, how are your kids? How's your family? Get to know each other and let them know that, hey, you're here to add value to their lives. Or, hey, if you're at a networking event, ask them, what are you most excited for? What are you looking forward from this event? And create those conversations, because to be a fan is so different than to be a friend. And as soon as you become a fan, that's when they're like, "Hey, my assistant, talk to my assistant. My assistant will help you do this A, B, and C." And so my biggest thing is like, how can I add value to this event, to this room, to this person? And when you figure those three things out, it changes the way that you approach any situation. It changes the way that you approach different people. And it is amazing to meet people that you see on TV or social media and stuff. But once you finally meet them, you're like, well, it's a regular person. Like, it's a regular person. They may be successful at a sport or in a niche, whatever it may be. They're still a regular person who still has their ups and downs, who still have their shortcomings. And so for me, it's fun, and it's always great to meet a new person or influencer or celebrity. But at the end of the day, they're still people. And so my biggest thing, I guess I would say to anybody, is add value and give more than you take. If you can give more than you take, it will change everything.
100%. And I think like as you truly give value, and I think some people think that's skewed, right? Like I think sometimes it gets skewed a little bit where it's like value is just money, or value like it's actually just like being a friend, being a ear for them, right? Like I can't tell you how many of my guys just call me just to talk while we're driving. They're driving to the facility and they just want to call just to talk about what they're seeing on the road or whatever else. And it's like those times and those memories are like just super like kind of like special, right? Where it's like, man, this is what we want to talk about. Like this is where it's like real genuine. Like this is like the foundation of it, right? Where going to events. Like I'll tell a funny story. I was at the gala of Tony Finau, and it was awesome. I never really been to a gala, so I was super nervous because I was like, I don't even know what to wear. And luckily, I had signed a deal with a suit company, and so they hooked me up and made me look good. But I was so nervous, and I like anyway. I go to the event, and right there's a lot of people there that are you see on TV, or you see that you know who they are, right? And I'm like, okay, I've seen his I've seen his construction sign X Y at every event, or I've seen I know who Danny Ainge is. You know who these people are, and what's so funny is like they're all just talking like normal, and it's just like a normal thing. And then as you kind of like as a little kid, or like kind of yourself before you're in that realm, you're kind of like, wow, this is crazy. Then you kind of snap back and you're like, okay, like you're here, like as well. Like you were also invited. You were also a part of this. And I think like that was what was interesting. Me and Tony, we take our picture, and he had a guy there that is a phenomenal golfer. His name is Colin. I actually am not really a golfer. I didn't even know who he was. And so he's like, yeah, Colin, hop in the picture. And I was like, yeah, Colin, hop in the pic. And so we take this picture, and then we do the Q&A segment, and he goes off on tells me or he tells the group who Colin is. And I was like, I can't believe I just like didn't even like, not that I would have like tried to fanboy him, but I was like, dang, like I like didn't even like give him like I didn't even know. But I think like I'm sure he probably appreciated that. You know what I mean? Like in my head I was like, wow, I'm an idiot. But like also secondly, I was like, I'm sure that probably feels like normal, like to just be a normal human being to people. And I think like that's what the misconception is like there's this imaginary gap between people. And I don't think it's really like a gap there. I actually just think it's really just connection of communicating the right way and not being part of a club and not trying to do it for clout. Like I'm never friends with someone just because of what their status is. Like that's stupid. Like I think that is the biggest way of like people that you want to work with and people that you don't want to work with. If it's always about like, yeah, and there's a difference of like, hey, because I remember early on when you start talking about going to events and people are like, oh, what are you doing? And you tell people what you do, and there's kind of that jealousy, right? There's that side of it where they're like, oh, well, you're just, you're going to this game or you're going to this event. And I'm like, well, it's kind of what I asked you to do this weekend, and you said you went to the canyon, and I just said I went to, a football game. It's the same. Like, I'm just telling you what I'm doing, but I think that's kind of where you can start divvying of like, okay, like who really wants me to succeed and who really doesn't, and who wants to kind of know. It's interesting. Like, you see all these people that are kind of watching you, but like how many people are actually wanting you to succeed and like want you to, and especially in this realm of this new wave of, you know, pretty much job. Like, it's like its own new entity, right? Which it used to kind of be like, okay, you can go be a social media manager, sure, maybe. And now it's like that's what people want to do. Like, a lot of people want to do it, but I think people don't understand what it takes to connect to those people. So you hit on it a little bit, and it's, take a lot less than, from those types of people. But how do you feel like when you're in a room with those people, or you see them at the gym, or if you see them kind of out and about, how do you connect to those people? Like, or what would you get is like say is like a positive experience way?
So if you're going to attend an event where there's big name speakers or whatever, do a little bit of research.
Yeah, my bad. I missed that
No,
cue.
no, you're
I
no,
know
you're
I
you're
missed that
totally
cue.
fine. You're
I
totally
mean,
fine. But I was at an event. It's funny that you say that in Florida, and I'm not sure you know the name Tim Story.
yeah.
He was speaking at the event. He was the keynote speaker for the day, and so I'm going back to my room real quick, and he's in the elevator, and so we're just talking it up, and this lady gets in, and the elevator shuts, and she looks at him. She said, "Who are you?" And then she's like, "Here's what I do for you." Hands a business card. And I'm like, if only you knew you had that 30 seconds
Right.
to ask this man one on one any question in the world, deliver value.
Yeah.
And she just missed the mark completely.
Right.
And so I look at situations like that. I'm like, if you had just known, hey, this is your keynote speaker, here's a chance to have a question, something.
Right. Something.
Yeah, of value. Offer him something. It didn't matter. And we just had a conversation, and later that night we're in the nightclub, and I see him, and I grab him, and I'm like, hey, come hang out at my booth. I'll take you over to yours and stuff. And just because we had a conversation, then he recognized me, and it made it so much easier. But it's like, do a little bit of research, offer something that you can give of value, and something. When I say give, you could be asking a question that gives them a chance to part wisdom on someone. It doesn't mean necessarily something physical that you have to give. But for me, I think that's the biggest thing. But also, it's like, talk to everybody in the room. You don't know when you get in the room, and you may not know everybody. You don't know who does this or who does that. Just a quick story. I had a kid that did an internship with me, and we're in LA, and we're with a bunch of influencers, and he's meeting all of them, and he meets this kid, and he's, what do you do? And the kid's like, well, I work at Skechers. And so the kid says to me afterwards, Jeff, you shouldn't connect with him. He works at Skechers, has no followers on social media, and I had done my homework, and so I know who this was.
Yeah.
And so later that night we did dinner, and that kid's like, hey, do you guys want to come hang out? And I said, I'm going to call early. Go hang out. And so this kid's driving over to his house. He's texting me. He's like, it's on the beach in Santa Monica. This is crazy. And he gets there, and what the kid didn't know is this kid's parents own Skechers. And I'm like, what an opportunity that you could have missed by judging him solely off, I work at Skechers, and he has no followers on social media. And that's the biggest thing. It's always like, who are the people in the room? Let me get to know them. Let me add value, because you never know who's hiding behind what, and what opportunity that you missed out because of a short judgment like that.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times it's been like that. Like, it's been so crazy where, yeah, like, hey, shout out that dude for being humble, right? Like, being able to just say, oh, like, because some kids would just be like, oh yeah, dude, like my dad owns Skechers, and like, yeah,
Oh
that's who
yeah.
I am.
Now we're best
Yeah,
friends. Yeah.
and then yeah, but what's interesting is like I think what's so cool about that is like, wow, what an opportunity to learn that lesson. And I mean, shout out you for being like, hey, I'm gonna call it in. You go hang out with him because you knew, right, to kind of give him that opportunity. But it's like you truly never know, right? Like, and I think like I've had those kind of experiences with other people, and like I've just kind of sat and just observed and watched, and it's so interesting. I've gone to restaurants, and I've gone with people that are high profile, and it's they maybe dressed a little low key to kind of go incognito a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like blown off. But then when we call and we're like, hey, we're coming in, it's like, dude, red carpet, like escorted
Yeah.
in. It's this, it's that. It's like, how lame is it that people are so caught up on a persona and
Uh-huh.
an image instead of a real connection? I think, and that's where people miss the ball. And I
Yeah.
think that's where like the overview of things gets so gray and weird because like if you truly know how to connect to people, and I really do think it's a real talent to be able to truly connect. Like I think you could talk to probably anybody, like if you at least said hi or but to truly connect and understand this stuff
Yeah.
is a very special talent because that's when you really make business endeavors with other people. That's when you connect with brands at a high level or people at a high level is because there's real authentic stuff. Because right, how easy is it to be like, oh my gosh, dude, this dude's big time. His parents own Skechers. We got to link up with him.
Yeah.
That's also bad.
Yeah.
Like that's also another side of it that's bad too, where it's like, hey, this dude is really, and it's kind of interesting. People that kind of hit me up and they're like, hey, you should really do this deal with this person because he's so like big time. And I was like, okay, well, what is he about?
Yeah.
So like one of my best friends is Garrett Bowles, and I love Garrett because not only that he's an awesome NFL football player, but who he is and how he operates. Right, he's a family dude. He's starting a school in Colorado for kids, and he is a mentor for juvenile kids. He's active in his faith, and he stays true to that. And there's just so many cool things that he does that I'm like, I just connected to him about so much deeper things than just even like face level of just like, oh, you're in the NFL.
Yeah.
Where it's like that's where you really can connect to people and you don't miss the ball by not even looking for it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you go looking for it, you miss it
Oh, 100.
because you're looking at it for the wrong thing. Like
Yeah.
you miss, and that's where you are so tunnel vision on. I got to meet this person at that event, and you miss the 12 other people that are probably cooler than the one person that
Yeah.
you're trying to meet.
Exactly.
It's like I've seen it time and time, man. Like I've been at events, and I was at an event, and we're hanging out, and I was talking to this lady, just an older lady. I had no idea who she was. We were just talking. She's like, "Oh, you remind me of my grandson." I was like, "Oh, that's nice. He must talk a lot, whatever." Right? We're joking around, and she's like, "Yeah." She leaves, and this dude comes up to me and was like, "Hey, like, who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, like, this is kind of who I am." And he's like, "Well, like, how are you talking to her?" And I was like, "Who? What are you? Sorry, I like missed the ball. Like, who am I talking to?" And he's like, dude, that like lady is one of the most successful like business owners, her and her husband in Arizona. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
It's like I mean, I wasn't trying to do that. Like
Yeah.
I just was. Hey, she said I looked like her grandson and gave her vibes of her grandson, and we just started talking about the Suns and basketball and all these different things. And then I didn't ask for anything. I didn't. It was just so like authentic, and it's like then other people see it because those types of people are always kind of in the outskirts
Yeah.
because they don't know how to get in the door because they just watch and they think being overbearing is going to be the way through, and it's just not. And so obviously there's a lot of topic on this, and I feel like we can go on for like we could probably do like 10 episodes on just this topic
Yeah.
in general. Um, but like, what do you feel like is like the biggest thing that's helped you succeed the most? And not just like, okay, I've hung out with the richest person ever, but it's like, what defines success for you in this realm?
For me, it's been so. I'm gonna go back in history a little bit.
Yeah.
I always go back to FDR when he proposed the New Deal for America. It was new, it was radical, it was different. But one of the things I always remember what he said. He says, "This nation demands constant experimentation. It is common sense to try something, and if it fails, try something else. But at least you tried." And for me, that's the process I've put into my career. Experiment, try new things. If it fails, admit it, honor it, accept it.
Yeah.
But at least you tried something and try something else and move on. And it's that constantly adapting, that pivoting, that adjusting to my surroundings, to the people I'm around. And some relationships you'll meet people and you think they're great people, and they'll either be fake or a fraud or a scam. And you have to admit, this is a failed relationship. I made a mistake here. I read this wrong. And that's okay. Accept it, and you learn from that. So when you meet the next person, you know what not to do. But for me, that is the biggest thing, is Be able to adapt, be able to adjust, and the biggest thing is accept. Accept it, and you'll be fine.
No, I think especially in Utah, where there's a lot of kind of like, just kind of rip off the band-aid, but I,
Pyramid schemes,
just yeah, there's just so many different schemes of just kind of get rich schemes, and there's these kind of
shortcuts.
like the shortcut or kind of fraudulent line about kind of who they are and how they got their money,
Yeah.
whose money it actually is, and I mean we're kind of seeing that right now. There's a lot of influencer realm kind of getting in
Going
cases right
down.
now and
Yep.
kind of going down pretty hot. And obviously that's like I know there's a lot to those things and there's so much involvement, but it's like it was funny. I was talking to one of my pro guys and he texted me and he's like, bro, like this dude lives like 10. These people live 20 like 10 minutes down the road. This is crazy. Utah's wild. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah, because and that's what's hard is like I think there's a lot going on in Utah, which is really good. But I think just being selective of how you work, and not just like okay, you just be selective and like judgmental by any means. I'm not saying that, but I think like you said, just feeling people out and really seeing kind of like okay, how do they operate? Are they willing to share how they operate?
Yeah.
Are they willing to show you kind of the landscape of it? And because like I get asked all the time to kind of tap my clients into other people, right? Like I mean that's kind of where people try to connect to me is to get to them,
Yeah.
right? And I got to be super specific too because I'm like, okay, well, dude, if I refer this guy
And it goes
and it
south.
goes south,
It's your
it's now it's my reputation. Like the guy can move on,
Yeah.
but my face is directly attached to this guy
Yeah, exactly.
or girl or whoever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like influencer or you know pro basketball player, NFL, whatever, right? So like I'm doing some business stuff with some guys, and you know I've been very strategic about how I pitch it because I don't want ever to come across to like, hey, I need you to do this to
Yeah.
fund me. I just never wanted to do that, but it's more of like, hey, I'm eating at the table. This is kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you want to come eat with me? That's dope. Let's
Yeah.
go, right? Um, but yeah, dude, it's how do you avoid the fraudulent side of this world?
I I don't think you do.
Really, you
I
just kind of have to go
think
through it.
I think you have to. When I look at the law of polarity and what the universe teaches us is every negative has a positive. That also means every positive will have a negative. And so they balance each other out. So you have to understand that that stuff will come up and it will happen, but you got to embrace it and understand I made a really bad mistake here, but that means something great is on its way. And so when you look at it that way, it's easier to accept it and deal with it. Understanding that there's a balance in all things. It's the same thing as a rose can be beautiful, but the thorns can cause you to bleed. It's it's the way our universe, the world, and society was created, and it's meant to be. And when you shift your thinking that way, it allows you to accept, and you don't get too hard on yourself. You don't get down on yourself, but you look at it, you accept it, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna work twice as hard now to get something great to come out of this situation. And every situation is a learning experience. And if you just humble yourself enough to learn that lesson, you'll be fine to move forward.
And I think like you hit it perfectly, dude. Is like every day is an opportunity, man. Like I kind of like I used to actually. It's funny is I actually never loved Monsters Inc. Like I used to like I actually never liked that show, the Disney show. But like I just remember like the doors, right? Every you would open the door, and different things. And I feel like that's life, man. Like you open a door, and yeah, you might meet someone, and it goes sideways, or you might meet someone, and it's like the greatest blessing ever, and it's at the right time, at the right place. There's other times where I've opened doors where I've been pitched something, and I was like, dude, I'm not in that spot, and then now like 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm like, dang, dude, like I wish I would have got pitched that now. Like I'm at a different, but it's like, but I'm so grateful that I learned all these other things, and I think that's what's hard about life is in, especially Utah. I feel like just kind of culturally, it's like kind of the scenery of kind of you got to look a certain way, you got to act a certain way, and I think like when you're able to truly dissect life and say, look, like life is all about experiences. You grow every single day. The good, the bad, the right, the wrong. But if you stay your course no matter what and you don't waver off of that in the sense of like I've seen it all the time in this realm, like where it's like, I'm gonna be this way with this people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be this way with these people. And then this way. And it's like and I get like, yeah, you might have to talk a little different. I might not use as much slang in a business development
Oh, yeah,
meeting.
100%.
Like I might yes, like that does happen. But what I'm saying is like the core value of you should always be you.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a core value that's like, here's who I am, regardless of my mistakes, regardless of my shortcomings, regardless of, bad deals, good deals, whatever, here's who Ben is, or here is who Jeffrey is. Like that, when you know that, I think all the other things just kind of happen, and I think that's when you can make those powerful changes in life or in business, is because it's like, here's who I am and what I can do. And so I guess just to kind of wrap it up, I'll ask another question is, what is kind of what do you got working on right now, or what's kind of the next step of what you're trying to do? Like obviously you're trying to build your brand as well. Like what's kind of that next thing for you?
My goal right now is to start building, I guess, closer relationships with the relationships I have. Um, Coworkers, clients, family, friends, really lean into those. Um, how I can add more value to those relationships, but also challenging my friends, those in my circle, how can they add more value to my life? Where do I need them to hold me accountable? And I think that's one of the things. But also, I think my biggest thing right now is being comfortable with, and it's a phrase that I've said a million times, and I always tell people, I am who I am, who I'm not, I'll never be. That is my biggest thing that I'm focused on right now. And what are my talents? What are my skills? How do I use those to my advantage? And just embrace this journey called life and give, give, give.
Yeah, I think giving is everything, right? Like I don't know, I saw this quote. It's like, just when you give, like I've never felt bad about giving. Yeah, or I've never felt bad opening a door for someone or helping a person. Like I've never felt bad. I felt bad in a lot of other things, like right in other settings, but like when you give, like nothing is better than those feelings. And I think like that's where, when you're in a drought or when you're feeling some type of way, like go and serve, man. Like go and love, like go love deeper, go love someone more. Like if you're feeling hatred in your heart, go love someone. Go say thank you to someone that you might not, appreciate, or maybe they don't know that you appreciate. And I think that's kind of the misconception too. Is kind of like sometimes you get put in boxes where you're like, well, this guy's life's good, so I don't have to check on that friend because he's good. But I got to check on this friend because I know he's not good. And I think sometimes that's where those friends that are quote unquote good get kind of lost because people forget to check on them. People forget to think that. And so I think just love those around you and serve those around you, and good things will happen, right? And so one last question before we hop off, but obviously this is a crazy world. We do so much. We're working all the time, right? Like you're breathing, you're working.
Yeah,
And not everyone sees that. They don't see it like that. They're like, "Well, you're just gonna do cool stuff all the time."
exactly.
So how do you manage that, and like in the sense of how do you manage like your family, anything else in between beyond just your work thing, and then how do you kind of like embrace the hey, you don't do anything. You're just a content guy. You're a PR guy, so you don't do anything. You just hang out.
For me, I let my relationships, the people I know, do the talking for me. If someone has a question of how I work, what I do, what I stand for, like you can talk to A, B, C, or D, and they will tell you everything you need to know. I also tell people, I'm like, this is who I am. Social media, my biggest thing is to be authentic and to be open and to be honest. And I'm like, guys, I give you everything unfiltered, raw. This is Jeff. And either you're going to love me or you're going to hate me. And we can connect. If you don't want to connect, that's fine. It doesn't offend me. And that's the thing that people have to realize is that not everyone will like you, and that's okay. Not everyone will be in your circle, and that is fine. There are so many thousands of people in the world. I look at people when you hold an event and you're like, well, this person's having an event at the same time. I'm like, you can have 1,000 people and he can have 1,000 people down the road. Like, there is no shortage of people in this world. And if we would, instead of competing all the time in everything, work more in unison, I think it will change the way that our society is. It will change the way that we do things. And so for me, I will always care too much. I will always give too much, but it's in my DNA. It's what I believe. It's what I do, and I that's just the life I lived. I guess I'll end with saying this is end of last year. I bought my grave plots up in Salt Lake. I have my funeral planned, everything, and I just told myself I'm going to live life to the fullest, and I'm at peace when it's time to go and it's checkout time. I'm okay going, but in doing so, I'm going to live each day and give as much as I can. So when I do leave this earth, people remember me for giving.
Absolutely. I mean, powerful. I mean, to truly live that and like to feel that and to have that, I think is unmatched, right? And I think when you're unapologetically you and live your life and live who you are and want to be, I think you feel so much freedom,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that's when you feel like it's not just because you can kind of have a different type of schedule, or I think when you feel the most free or feeling the most like not weight bearing is when you're doing your life.
Yeah.
And obviously there's guidelines that's like, hey, you shouldn't, you probably shouldn't go do this because of physics. Like, think that, like, you might get hurt if you do something like that. It's not living like a YOLO type, but it's like living to the fullest is just embracing everything that you're at, right? Like if you're in California, be in California, let your feet be there, right? Or if you're in a mode, like be where you're, be present. And I think that's something I've learned a lot. One of my good friends, Chelsea, talked about it, and she's like, be pleasant and present. And it changed my whole perspective. I was like, yeah, like when I'm in places, like sometimes I look around and I'm like, I want to video some stuff, or there's a concert going on and I want a video. I'm like, I just kind of want to be present. Like, I just kind of want to watch this, like, and just experience it. And I think as you experience life and you give and you love, there's a lot of good things that will happen to you. And when you focus on the hate, when you focus on the downfall of other people, I just think it's a recipe for your own misery to never go away.
Yeah.
And I think that's where hatred stems from, and that's where jealousy stems from, is on unhappy people that are unwilling to admit that they're unhappy.
Exactly.
And so when you love people and you cheer people on and you want other people to succeed, it only is going to boost your goodwill, and it's only going to boost opportunities for you. But guys, I appreciate everyone for being here, listening, liking, following, commenting, everything. Even if you don't like us, follow us or comment. I still love you. And I want you guys to follow Jeff. We're going to drop his Instagram below, his podcast below. Make sure to tap into him in every way possible. We'll make sure we're sharing his content as well. Again, appreciate our sponsors, our partnerships. We love them all. Thank you guys, and we will have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week. Jeff, appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Absolutely, bro.
I appreciate it.
Perfect.